1602. Now this is one of the first maps of the world made in China. You know Matteo Ricci, Jesuit missionary to China. And he kind of man who had a real knack for languages and had come as a missionary and then got his way into China and eventually got in favor of the emperor. And so he brought a lot of the Western concepts of map making to China. And this is the first map of the world in China, you know, done with his standards. So it's done during the, of course, the Ming period, the 1602. We're going to see a close-up here. Okay, see, this is a close-up of one of those panels, and you can see Taiwan is named Okinawa on the map. The Matteo Ricci is on the continent. He doesn't really know that much about it. But the other thing that you do see here, this 1602, the John Speed map was 1626, the one with the dagger. And the Lin Choden was a little before this, but Korea, you know, the Chinese know Korea as a peninsula.
Yeah.
They know it's not an island. They fought the Koreans all the time, trying to conquer it and all that. So you know, there are things on here that are more accurate than some of the Western maps. But at the same time, Matteo Ricci was bringing his knowledge of the other European and Spanish colonies and that are on the other panels of the thing.
Well, that would reflect the perspective of the Chinese vis-a-vis their own,
right,
vision for conquest and expansion and economies.
Yeah, their view of the world. And actually, on this one, Matteo Ricci has when you measure longitude and latitude, the one you use the sun and the equator, but the other one you have to have the starting point. They knew it was 24 hours around the world. And so you have to have one thing be your starting point, your zero, and then your 360 degrees to get all the way around the world. Matteo Ricci put zero right a little bit east of Beijing. He couldn't put zero at Beijing, that would be bad feng shui. But, the other countries like right now, Greenwich Village is used universally as the mean, but London the British would have London, the French would have Paris. Every country would have their own capital be the zero from which they measured the latitude.
So this one is made by Ricci?
What?
This one is a Western map or a Chinese map?
Matteo Ricci is in the Chinese court. And he makes this 6-panel map for the Chinese emperor.
And he made this?
Yeah. And he was a brilliant man, and amazing. Now we're coming up a little more. Okay, this is 1696. So Vincenzo Maria Cardinelli. And this is the Guangdong and Fujian provinces of China. So this is now 1696, we're in the Qing period. The Qing have already conquered, the Ming that were on Taiwan and brought most of them back and left their garrison there. And this is just the 2 provinces, Fujian and Guangdong here. Hainan is quite big. the Philippines here aren't underneath Taiwan. But otherwise, you know, the Taiwan is definitely one island. But you see this on a lot of early maps. They really didn't know the East Coast that well, and they think that there's like a big river that separates these little islands on the East Coast. And I think the way that came about was they'd be sailing across the coast and they'd see one river coming here and another river coming here, and they think maybe they're connected. It kind of comes and spreads around, but you see that division on a lot of the earlier maps on this, because the eastern part is really unexplored territory. Okay. This is a fake map. This is there are scams in every age. And this is the Salmanazar map. It's in 1705, okay? Now, Salmanazar had never been here. He's never been to Asia. But he starts a scam. Now, also you have to think that once the Qing took over the west coast, the Spanish and the Dutch had already been gone. The Dutch defeated the Spanish, the Ming defeated the Dutch, and then the Qing defeated the Ming. So the Western world doesn't have that much direct contact with Taiwan. For a brief while, the British tried to set up a trade colony, but the Shulan, who took over as ruler for the Qing, charged too much exorbitant prices, so they didn't do good for business. The Dutch had resettled Geelong, recaptured it, but the Qing would not trade with them, so they gave that up. So there isn't that much contact directly with Taiwan. Salmanazar is in London, and he starts telling people about Taiwan, and he teaches a fake Taiwanese language to the people. The Archbishop of London is preparing missionaries to go to Taiwan. They're all learning this fake language from Salmanazar. But the thing that is interesting here is he knows nothing about, and he knows there's Korea and there's Japan and that, and he knows there's these islands. But, now we're 1705. The other maps we've seen are getting pretty accurate. But in his fake map, he's got here's Formosa, and he's got this is island of robbers once and another island of robbers below and above Taiwan. And he runs this scam for about 3 years until he's finally caught. And then he repents. But it's interesting in that almost every age there'll be someone who's got a scam for making money.
And it's interesting that the map survived.
Yeah, that's the other thing, I guess. So it must have been a good scam. Okay, this is a French map. This is 1735. Jean-Baptiste Duhalde, and it's Fujian province. So the reason I put this one in here is they say it's Fujian province. So here's the Fujian, and in the Qing, Fujian is part of Fujian province. But the interesting thing here is that you don't see the other part of the island because it wasn't part of Qing province. That was indigenous territory, and it wasn't part of the Qing Empire, or their territory. So that, because we've seen the other maps that they knew the island shape pretty well. But this is an interesting indirect statement of remember I said Japan is the first country to control the whole island. Okay, now we're getting pretty contemporary. This is Swinhoe, Robert Swinhoe, 1864. He's
Oh,
the
yeah.
first British consul in Taiwan. So we see quite accurate. This is after the second treaty of the Opium Wars, and treaty ports have been opened on Taiwan. The British are now using this trade. If anyone has read in 1885, the French will have a battle with the Qing, and they will blockade. And John Dodd wrote about a book about being blockaded at Danshui at this period. So Swinhoe, the British are here now, and you can see it's getting quite accurate.
Well, Swinhoe was a real badass.
What
Swinhoe,
was a
badass.
that?
He was great. He was the guy who documented all the plant species and the animals.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that guy.
Okay.
Yeah, he's an intellectual giant.
Yeah, okay. When
At the time.
you said badass, I'm wondering,
Well, okay.
how you're using badass.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, no, but he.
intellectually speaking.
Okay. Yeah, no, because he was also consul,
Yeah.
and he, the bird, the
Birds,
Swinhoe
Swinhoe's
pheasant,
pheasant.
is named after him, ornithology and all that. No, so he was really young. So you wonder how these guys had so much time to do all this.
No kidding. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, this one map also sort of harks back to what you said about the 3 mountain chains,
Okay.
making it look like 3 islands.
Yeah, yeah.
You can see the bottom and the middle and the top.
Now he also has on the map, you can really hardly see it here, but they know there's a current that goes up here. Okay, now we're into the Japanese era. This is from Davidson. Davidson is the American consul in Taiwan, 1903. This is his map of 1903. A couple things he wrote this, again, big book on island of Formosa. It's being translated into Chinese right now, and will be published by the end of September. But he makes a real distinction here. This is all indigenous territory. But this is the Japanese era, and they are colonizing the whole thing. But the Japanese know that, this whole eastern part of the island is indigenous. And part of that came from so many of these things intertwined. Back in 1870s, they had the Peony tribe affair. A ship from Ryukyu crashed here, and most of the people were killed. The sailors were killed by the indigenous people. And the Japanese and the Qing were fighting over who really ruled the Ryukyu Islands and Okinawa. And the Japanese put their army on here to punish the indigenous people. At first, the Qing tried to avoid responsibility. When Japan said, you owe us our indemnity for our people being massacred. And the Qing said, well, the indigenous people aren't under our control. It's not our problem. We don't owe you anything. Which got them out of that one thing, but put them in a deeper problem, because then the Japanese said, okay, we're going to go there and punish them ourselves. And they put an army there, and all of a sudden the Qing says, God, we got a Japanese army on the island now. We got to get them out. And they say, okay, we will pay you for not only for the people that were punished there or that died, but also for the improvements you made on the land, roads and everything, to get in there and punish those indigenous people. Now, by doing that, they then were saying to the Japanese that you are the rightful rulers of the Ryukyu Islands, because we are paying you for what was done to your people. And therefore they, in the long run, by trying to save money in the first part, they lost the claim on the Ryukyu Islands. So, but as I say, this I put this in because of the, this is 1903, so we're 8 years into the Japanese era. Okay, this is what Taiwan really looks like from the satellite. The shape and everything. Just kind of, but you can see that already by a lot of these 1800 maps are pretty accurate on it. And remember that on the east coast here, they had that, I believe there was that river or whatever that separated the thing. Well, you can possibly see why they would think that way with the mountains. And, here we go now. This is from actually a Taiwanese textbook. But here, of course, east is here, north here, west and south. Now, normally, maps give you a visual perception. And normally, when you see Taiwan, you only see it as it is related here to the continent and from this angle. So you think Taiwan's a part of the continent. But when you see it this way, you see the Japanese islands coming down here through the Ryukyus and the Philippine islands coming up here. There are two tectonic plates that actually meet in Taiwan. And that's why we have a lot of earthquakes, because these two plates are always shifting. But also, when you look at it this way, you're realizing Taiwan is not part of the continent. Taiwan is part of the whole island chain. And that's the perception. Perception influences the way you think. In my book, I've actually got a different map that kind of plays with perception. If you turn the world upside down and you look at the way everything seems to flow down from Australia, I don't know if you've seen these joke maps where the Australians say, we're not down under, we're on top. But when you look at it in the book, it seems like everything kind of flows from Australia down to the world. It kind of gives you it glorifies Australia. Perception is a very important part of life. Okay, now we have GPS and whatnot, so satellites. So why do we need maps? Maps still give us information. And this map shows you if sea level rises about 25 meters, what goes underwater. You can see where we are up in Taipei, we'll be underwater. Whole west coast, wow, everyone's underwater. Even a little bit of the east coast. So important thing, that we don't want sea level to rise too much.
And 15 million people live just in that area, or people.
Pretty well wipe out Okay, now this is another good map that gives information. What I call the blue water map. And, part of what China is always saying is Taiwan is an inalienable part of the motherland. And from time immemorial, Taiwan has been a part of China and so forth. That's all talk. The real reason is military. Yes, here's the Taiwan. This is color-coded by ocean depth. And you can see the Taiwan Strait is pretty shallow. For China's submarine fleets to get into blue water, and for China to have a blue water navy for the Pacific Ocean, they've got to have a way to access the ocean. If they come here through the Bashi Channel, they're coming between Taiwan and the Philippines. If they go this way, they're between Japan and Taiwan. But if China owns Taiwan, they can put submarine bases and everything on the whole east coast and be right out in blue water. When we use blue water, it's a military term. We have a blue water navy. can cover the whole Pacific. So, in my mind, this is again one of these maps that the real reason China wants Taiwan is strategic.
Well, can you explain a little bit more about how shallow it is on that side and what submarines need?
Okay, well, it's about, say, 100 to 200 meters.
Oh, that's not very deep.
No, you can't hide there.
Yeah, I see. Okay.
So, it'd be pretty easy to track. You've seen the movies where destroyers are chasing submarines and all that.
Yeah.
They're sending the radar. Boom, boom.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I see what you mean.
Once you start laying depth charges down there,
Oh, yeah, it's all over.
there's no place to run.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you risk we'll go deeper. They got to figure out how deep are we.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay, right.
Okay. This is population-wise. Where do most of the people in Taiwan live?
In the areas that will eventually be flooded with water.
Right.
I see.
Right, so this is probably more like 20 or 22 million.
Yes. That means that there's lots of potential in real estate.
So, if you see the water level rising by in the mountains.
Right.
This one is, I could tell you the majority of the people live on the west coast, and you'd kind of accept them enough. But if you visually see this, you right away know. You're not going to forget that. You may forget what I said, but that image just says it there. That's a satellite map.
Oh, of the lights.
Yeah.
Oh, satellite picture of the lights.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Right. And
I thought it could have been like a statistical database.
No.
Okay,
That's electricity usage.
Okay.
At night, who's got their lights on?
Yeah. Well,
Cities are.
it's like the difference between South Korea and the North.
Right.
Yeah, and when you see that picture, you're like, whoa!
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I see.
Okay, now here, so, other questions come in. Democracy and identity. So, ask the question, does democracy influence American identity? Some of us Americans, not Gary, you're Norwegian, okay, but at least us three Americans here. How is our identity as a country influenced by our democracy? Then we could ask, do we speak of America as the first British democracy? No. Do we speak of it as an American democracy? So you turn that around, some people like to say, well, Taiwan is the first Chinese democracy. And my answer is no, it's the first Taiwanese democracy. A lot of the people here came from China, but so what makes Americans Americans and not British? 13 original colonies were British colonies. But why do we juxtapose American English and British English? Even you hire someone for a bushy bond, we want someone with an American accent, not a British accent. So ask the same questions about Taiwan and its democracy. This is kind of a plug for Taiwan as the first Taiwanese democracy. Okay, so let the Taiwan's lions tell their story. Amen.
Thank you, Jerome.
Okay, we can put on the lights, or I don't know, you want questions, or...
Yeah, so let's open it up to questions, and let's try to have one person ask one question, and let it go around before we ask another question. Who would like to start?